Hello everybody and welcome to today's to the weekly update video, and I want to actually talk about S&P 500 because I have realized that I may not have been actually I am going to be very close with my longer term calls. I have made many times a call that we will see a correction of approximately 15% this year, and I have made that call at the start of the year. Actually, I did a little bit of the experiment, and the last hours of the 31st of December 2025 in this spot, I made the New Year's calls. I published it on X, so it's timestamped. So even if I had changed, well, actually I can't change it anymore, right? Because you can only change the tweet in the first like 2 hours or so. And there you can see me calling approximately 50%, 15% correction for the S&P 500. And I even say that it will start at the end of Q1 or at the start of Q2. In this case, we could actually say that it started in the middle of Q1. So that was but I'm still given that it's just a prediction, and you can only do predictions for kind of fun, because the job of a swing trader or investor is not to predict, but the job is to react appropriately, to watch stuff and react. And those 15% can be actually even undercut, I have to tell you. So the first thing that I want to say is that we still didn't have any kind of bounce. Okay, so this is the S&P 500 right here. So this purple line, that's the 2025 highs. You know, I used to think that this is going to be the definite support, because the highs from 2022, those were the support for the April 2025, but it may not hold this time. So what I've realized, for instance, is that we do not have, or we did not have still any kind of decent bounce, even like we had in the March 2025. We had for about 2 weeks some kind of a bounce. And when you realize, then when you measure the total correction, but of course you have to know how low the correction will go in order to make this measurement. Okay, because you need this bottom point, you need to know where to place it. And then you realize that this bounce, some kind of a counter trend rally, happens around the middle part of the correction. Okay, when you go, and this is the Ukraine war year 2022, again, all right, again, exactly at the middle part, 0.5, we have a strong counter trend rally. I'm very interested in such a rally, because I do want to, because I've closed quite a bit of short yesterday, and I'm worried if we continue dropping like we are, my balance will start going down. My balance is still okay, because I got covered with all those shorts that I had. I no longer have them. I had to lock in profits, because you don't make money unless you lock in profits. So I'm really interested in seeing one of these, and then I will try to actually reopen some of the many shorts around the top of that counter trend rally. So, and again, the Ukraine war here, we had in the middle beautiful counter trend rally, a very strong one actually. This was very strong. When you then measure the correction, it went actually all the way almost back to the 0.786, almost. So it was very strong. It looked like it was all over. COVID, I think, will not have that. I think COVID does not have such a counter trend rally. But okay, like COVID is COVID, okay? Like, we are not in that scenario today. I do not think we should compare today's situation with the COVID. I do not think so at all. And actually, even look at the oil price. The oil price crashed at the COVID. Today we have the opposite. And look at the oil price with the Ukraine. I do think we should be comparing more with the Ukraine war fractal, or even the fractal from the last year, if nothing else. So, since we still did not have any kind of a counter trend rally, I was thinking, what if yesterday, because yesterday, like, everybody was negative, nobody was buying. I was buying, I bought one stock, Reddit, on record. But I was thinking, what if the counter trend rally starts right away? What if this is going to be actually the time where the counter trend rally starts? What if? In that case, I would try to project my Fibonacci's. I will try to estimate that yesterday's price is basically the halfway of the correction itself. So now I'm gonna be just guesstimating that this trade I will just leave aside. So I will be guesstimating that we are in the middle, and in that case, if you look where the correction could end, it says 5,700, and that's definitely lower than I see coming right now, or I saw coming. And it also makes sense. This level makes sense because this giant gap is really, really asking to get filled in that we've made in May 2025. So, in that regard, the correction, if this comes true, correction would be just short of 20%. So actually, more significant correction than I thought. And however, I also found another interesting point that I really want to talk to you about. And that point is connected to the Chinese zodiac. As you may know, 2026 is the year of the fiery horse. I have brought up for you this beautiful illustration, and the last fiery horse year, and we had, was the year 1966. And when you go to the 1966, and when you look at the whole decade, you actually realize that there is many more similarities than you would ever, or I would have ever imagined that there would be. Because in this decade, in 1960s, basically that was the last time when the exact Chinese years repeated. Okay, so 1966 is the year of the fiery horse. That was the last one. And just look what happened. A year before, we also had some kind of a correction, but we bounced from it in a V shape. Doesn't that remind you something? Doesn't that remind you the last year, 2025? And look what happened in 1962. Just look what happened here. Doesn't this remind you what happened in the exact Chinese year, this decade, 2022? Doesn't that remind you? And also, by the way, in the 1960s, we also had some kind of an important low, but of course, we didn't have any kind of a recession like COVID there. So, actually, when you start comparing these Chinese years, it made me also respect much more and be opened much more to the possibility that this correction is gonna go lower than I originally thought, and exactly how much lower it would be closing this gap of 5,700 for the S&P 500.